And we are live.
Yes.
Good morning. We have some very special guests today. This has been 3 weeks in the making, as Niels knows. But today we are joined by the wonderful Uno team at HQ. So welcome, Niels, Kristian, and Sofie. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Hi.
We were just saying before we went live, we were admiring Niels's nose cam today.
Yes, it's a hacker review.
I've actually tried to put it up on a pile of books to make it look less nosy. But as I was saying to you, Callum, you know, the nose cam in Dell XPSs is the tabs of webcams.
Yeah.
And luckily that story actually came out good because the new Dell XPSs has a webcam in the top. So who knows?
Is this an exclusive?
Will there be tabs in Umbraco before I get a new Dell XPS? That is what everybody wants to know. But then Corona came and we are out of money at the HQ, so I can get a new laptop.
We will start a poll just after the episode today, but we can still see people at the HQ. And I was asking before we went live. You are operating kind of normally back again in Denmark. Yes. How's the atmosphere in the HQ? Everything is good. Processing forward. Besides, of course, what we've seen in the recent launches, right? Sofie, Kristian?
Yeah, I think it's kind of back to normal. I mean, people are being encouraged to come into the office. Of course, they don't have to, but when people are here, it's back to normal. The mood and the atmosphere, it's still nice and good to see people again.
You don't have to walk around in like a protective suit or anything?
No. I mean, we have put up some plastic covers here and there, you know, the see-through kind, but not a lot, so that's great.
And there's sanitizers everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, there's more sanitizers than Umbraco socks at the HQ, and we have 985 pairs of socks left. So that's a lot of sanitizers.
Wow. We are speaking numbers now. Yeah, that's great. But we saw
because that's what I do, right?
Yeah. We saw confetti, so yeah, we assume that everything is getting back to normal, and that's good. We've seen a lot of great activities recently, but people, of course, are sometimes in houses or close or isolated or working remotely as previously. And yeah, you've been doing also great work highlighting some of the community works recently as an HQ. And we can start from that because that's something what I had pleasure to be participating in, and it's a community stories, a new section on our which came out this week, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And the goal, there is a blog post from Ilham about the whole goal of the section and the stories and why it's there. And as I said, I received an email asking about some story behind my contribution in the Umbraco community. I've of course shared it immediately, but everyone can share their stories, and that's the another opportunity, because we've seen the blog post from Owen about MVPs, some of the new community members, and right now it's straight here on the main hub of Umbraco community, highlighting really great stories and great people. For example, the main contributor right now with 240 pull requests since the new year started, Ken Jacobson. It's great initiative, and what we wanted to do today in the umbraCoffee is inviting everyone to submit their stories, because I think
it's MVP heavy right now. I'd love to see some people that we don't know so much featured in there. And that was it this month or last month we had. The U profile was someone from India. It would be great to see some people from not the typical groups, not European focused or MVPs, people that we don't know about. That I think this section of ours is going to become really, really, really valuable.
Yep, I agree. And also I think it's a great way to also get inspired in how do people contribute, because there are so many different stories there, and also motivations. I love how Ken says some people like, I think he says, some people like doing puzzles, I like doing pull requests.
Yeah.
And for him, it's actually relaxing, which is it's such a great story. But I encourage everyone to read them as well, because I mean, it just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And speaking about those stories, there is a blog post about each story with some questions, how people manage to find time to contribute, how they are organizing their work, and how Umbraco community is in the relation with their work and life and stuff like that. As you said, Niels, very inspirational, and I'm sure that there is more people like that, and HQ wants to know about them, and not only HQ, the community in general, which is why the section started. That's great. Call to action done. We can move forward because, of course, as Callum mentioned, we have the team behind a new product from Umbraco, which was released last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. Oh, wait, already 2 weeks, and time flies. It's called umbraCo Uno, and as we have you here, tell us all more about straight from your side what it is, where it's going to be used, how's the trials going, because that's also something what was announced.
Sure. Well, first of all, we can't take credit for the entire Uno. It's a pretty big effort. Many more people involved than just the three of us. Uno is in short a simpler way to build simpler sites. So it is by no means an attempt to make it possible to do everything in the world, but it's not a starter kit. So the intention is, starter kits are traditionally more used to learn how Umbraco works. So what we wanted with Uno is it was basically a way for agencies that might not have internal developers to be able to use Umbraco for simpler sites. So they actually get to learn how good Umbraco is compared to the competition. And the same goes with maybe some organizations that has semi-skilled internal people who might reject Umbraco for some campaign sites because of cost. But here they can spin up a relatively simple site with Umbraco. And then over time, we want it also to be potentially a foundation for a bit more complex sites. But given right now that we don't support custom code or even access to the settings section of Umbraco, that's not today.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So you said there that it's for agencies, but being specific, that's not really necessarily the agencies that kind of as developers we're perhaps referring to. You maybe mean more marketing or advertising agencies or design agencies.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we get a bit of an echo chamber in the Umbraco world, because all of us believes that the best sites are created when from design to code, that they are made bespoke, and I also think that's the truth. When you really have the luxury of anything from. Did I lose?
Yep.
Yes.
We lost you.
Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good thing. For a second, I was nervous that it was my tiny dog that had bitten the internet cable, as we almost are out of iPhone cables in the house. But at least he hadn't gotten to the Ethernet cables yet. Anyway, no, really great site. If you have the right team and if you have the right budget, you can do it completely bespoke from start to finish, and really nothing beats that. But it's not always you can do that, but when that's all the type of projects that you do in the Umbraco community, maybe we don't learn about all the times that Umbraco is actually rejected for a lot of reasons, and it is rejected just like in the early Umbraco days, when people rejected the larger CMSs for instance campaign sites, and Umbraco was sort of the Trojan horse in large organizations. And the downside of all of this is the perception of Umbraco being complex outside of our echo chamber, or expensive or difficult, or very developer focused or developer, you really rely on developers. And number two, and maybe worst of all, is the organizations that doesn't know Umbraco already. We don't get to be on their radar, and then the only way we can be on their radar is using the same techniques as the big ones, and there's just no way we can follow their marketing and sales budget.
So you're not trying to take on Wix and
no.
with huge marketing budgets. We're not going to be seeing Umbraco Uno billboards anytime soon.
Or the Umbraco logo maker. No,
it was a question, right? That people compared, because maybe the communication was about that it's not for the end users who will just join and build the sites and run them in the wild. It's like to understand Umbraco and possibilities behind it and do some kind of prototype, which might be then maybe transferred or extended in the custom and more expanded builds, right?
Yep, and I mean right now we've launched version one of Uno. We are working on a much better editor experience, and we're also working on custom code for Uno. And when that is done, we can make it the default trial experience of Umbraco Cloud as well. So, which is kind of cool, because then when you go to umbraco.com, you can actually have editors getting a really nice experience, trialing Umbraco. And personally, I also kind of like that now an Uno site is sort of the worst acceptable Umbraco implementation now, right?
That's a fantastic marketing tagline.
No, but I mean, internally for us in the Umbraco community, a month ago, it was the crappy starter kit that was done 4.5 years ago and never completed. That was sort of the worst possible Umbraco implementation. And I think when we talk to each other in sort of the, let's say, top 250 people, or the Code Garden crowd of Umbraco, I think most of us build pretty good Umbraco sites. Well engineered, well designed, well respecting both editors and web standards. But outside that chamber, there's some interesting Umbraco implementations being done. And I just love that now this sort of becomes the bar. And when we reach end of summer, I think we'll have a really nice also editor experience for Uno, which can act as an inspiration, because right now the inspiration is the crappy starter kit.
Yeah, I think speaking about inspirations, because we can probably show off some of the Uno parts. We've been talking before going live that it's based on one of the themes which we were highlighting in the past episodes as well. It's an Igloo theme, and the Igloo team released a really nice video how they are replicating umbraco.com website using the Igloo theme, which is the shelf and the base for the initial theme in Umbraco Uno. And as you've mentioned, that's a great also inspiration and proof that it can be used for building websites exactly like the one which you are using for the whole product and company. And yeah, we will of course link the video down below. But Niels, feel free right now to show your demo if you have it prepared right now.
Yeah, sure. I'll just I already shared my screen, right? So yes. With your fancy magic, I can just go straight to. So I mean, let me just have 1.5 minutes of slides, just sort of to emphasize the whole point with Uno, which is this idea that you can go to a website in no time. Sorry for having a quote by myself. It's not my slides. I borrowed them from Jacob. I'm not that crazy. But the whole idea is, you have some basic building blocks, you have some settings you can make, and you can get an idea up and running, which is actually also interesting for prototyping or even a sales situation. I had to help selling Umbraco to a large organization, and I replicated their homepage in 20 minutes using this. And then what I was actually demoing was editing a copy of their site. And in the beginning, I had to emphasize that I hadn't hacked their site because one of them looked a bit scared. But anyway, there's you go take a trial and then you get a site called the Unicorn Hotel, which is a kind of an implementation of Uno with some nice features, some global content, a blog, and some nice landing pages. And then you can sort of take it from there. As you said, it's based on the Iglo team, and then on top of that, we're building a couple of improvements that we think is relevant for what we want to do with Uno. And then we also really trialing a lot of how can we make the sort of the support and onboarding stuff of Umbraco better. So it's a great way for us to experiment, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then ton of widgets to build sort of a basic site. And here's some of the principles, because I think that's important. Sort of with it reminds me of the early days of Umbraco. I mean, again, I think we have to remind ourselves that Umbraco is for editors. It's not a developer tool. It happens to be really nice for developers, but at the end of the day, when the developers of us are done, there is some editors who should have a really great tool to get their work done. So what's kind of fun working with Uno is that we're taking this approach of usability first and then flexibility next. And then also this idea that you can really fast see something, whereas with Umbraco, traditional Umbraco, it's sort of a blank slate, and it takes a while, and it takes a certain level of skills to be able to have something. And then this whole idea of actually doing this as a SaaS thing, it also means that we can dedicate people to it, because making a starter kit is time consuming. Maintaining a starter kit is also time consuming. So by having it a product that can actually pay for the ongoing improvements. And then finally, as I mentioned, it sort of sets the bar for any Umbraco site. So right now we are at what we call level 1. Then we are in the process of, as I mentioned, improving the editor experience, and then we are also opening up for both custom code, but we're also using it sort of as a test case for how, traditionally with Umbraco, we always, made the API first, and then we thought later we can make it really user-friendly for editors. Somehow we never get to later. So now we're actually trying to see, okay, rather than just saying anything is possible with Umbraco, we're sort of saying, how difficult would it be to do this without any code? So it's also something we are looking at, which of course means that now we have these 3 different products. I'm not going to bore you with that. Just a quick video. You go to umbraco.com/tryUmbracoUno, sign up. Sorry?
Does it work now?
Yes, it works. We can come back to that. I think you didn't want to be Kristian doing launch. Poor guy, Kristian. You were under a lot of stress, because I think it's fair to say that the amount of trial signups were surprising us a little bit. But anyway, it's super easy to sign up. Takes a minute. Then you get a free 14-day trial. You never give us a credit card or anything. And then you get straight to the back office. And what you see now is sort of, a number of tools, and also a number of, hey, did you know what you can actually do with Umbraco, and also a way to talk with us from the beginning, which hopefully, as we can roll out this as the default trial of Umbraco, will give anyone a better experience. But anyway,
I was going to mention, because during the Gold Partner Summit, I saw that, yeah, exactly. I understood the idea behind showing this way of Umbraco for someone who starts the trials, instead of the blank website, do whatever you want to do with that. But if you don't know what to do, it's probably not moving forward for most of the people who are just trying it out, and now they can see the work.
I was going to say, in addition to that, so yes, the starter kit, the starter kit as we've known it from Umbraco, is basically a demo site. It comes with content, it's pre-configured. You can't customize it in any way other than changing the content. So for someone trying to visualize what Umbraco could potentially do for them, actually, it's not perfect. Whereas this, you spin up a site and you can actually start to play with Umbraco and make it look and work kind of, you know, how you would imagine your site looking. So for a first like initial impression of Umbraco, it will give you perhaps a better one.
Yep, I agree. Now I done something funny because I signed up using a whole new account, so I have a password some magical place. So I'm just gonna find another Uno project I hopefully have lying around here, so I can show you. Let me just jump here because I don't know my temporary password. So let's see if this is a working one or one from when we tested Umbraco. Else it's a good thing that you have that how to build umbraco.com with Igloo video. But I'm pretty sure I have something here. Oh Jesus, this is an old one. Anyway, then I can just try. You know, basically, we'll see how up to date this one is. Basically, Uno out of the box comes with, you know, it is Igloo, so it's a lot of widgets, different kinds of widgets based off or using nested content with anything from heroes to galleries to text pages to a blog, and also a concept of global content. So editors also get an experience of that you can have a content repository and you can reuse content in multiple places. Then in addition, there's a lot of design settings you can have. So of course you can upload various logos, different fonts, and then you can sort of have a color palette which is used globally throughout the entire site. And let's see how new this this test project is. Well done, Niels, for preparing really nicely. Because then we have a theme explorer where you can sort of you can adjust the site or the design of the site in the preview mode, and then you can sort of actually see your changes without having to you know, hit save and publish and see how that goes.
So that widget kind of posts back to the CMS and updates those values in the CMS.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
nice.
And for the no, of course this doesn't work. So this is a old test project. Sorry about that. I'll post a video and link it on Twitter so I don't waste your time. But yes, for the interest in that theme explorer is something cool built by the Igloo people, sort of for a demo, how flexible the Igloo theme was. But then on top of that, we just made a web API to make sure that it could update Umbraco in the back.
So okay, so what's the difference between this and Igloo then? Right now, what you've shown us, you're saying, okay, Igloo has this flexibility. We can change various things. You can do everything. You've been able to spin up an instance of that on cloud. But what makes this different to just installing Igloo theme myself?
Yeah, so of course there's the whole SaaS side of things. So this is, you don't install anything. Everything is automatically updated, both the Umbraco side of things and the Igloo/Uno side of things. As I mentioned, there's the whole onboarding and support, which is different from Igloo. And then we made a couple of nice touches, such as this idea that you can actually save what's going on in the theme explorer. There's the block editor-based editor experience coming a little later, and as that we keep adding things on top of Igloo.
Okay, so it's really the starting point.
Yes, exactly, and that was why we did it. I mean, at Umbraco, we are more a software company. We're not a web agency. We don't do projects for customers. So we sort of screened the market and thought, should we do this ourselves? But we could see something nice about Igloo. There's no such thing as the best theme, but I think Igloo strikes the balance between being very loyal to Umbraco concepts and don't want to do too much. And then at the same time, the website it produces is nice markup. It's super fast. And it was something where we could say we can take this as the foundation and then we can improve from there.
if we're talking about improvements, you've mentioned the future and the next ideas of extending Uno, and we have Kristian here, who was, as you said, also responsible for technical deployments and the initial launch of the platform. So Kristian, can you tell us more about technical sides and plans maybe for the extension points of Uno, and what are you currently working on then?
Yeah, I can. Right now, we're as we speak, people are working on enabling the custom code part. That means that you get access to the Git repository and the settings and the packages as a regular back office, and you can work with it as a regular project, still being in the Uno sphere, so you can still receive whatever updates we make for Uno if you wish, and you keep all the widgets and everything that is there, but you can add your own extensions and what else you can do in Umbraco back office. That is what we're working on.
Like a normal Umbraco instance.
What?
Just like a normal Umbraco install.
Yeah, normal Umbraco cloud install, yes. Nothing different. That is what we're working on right now. And then we're working on the blog editor as well. First for the CMS, the new 8.7 version. And then when that is ready, we will integrate it into Uno as well. So instead of nested content, it will be the blog editor. And that I saw a preview of it today. It looks really, really awesome. You can see, instead of the widget as like a list item on the content node, you actually see what it is you're building, how it will look on the page. That is super cool, and it will enhance the editor experience really much. You don't have to click save and then go to an update and everything. You can just add and you can edit the content, and you can see while you edit the content what it's going to look like at the same time. It's going to be super awesome. And then we have some. What? Sorry?
I said that's really cool. I love the fact that you're effectively going to roll a change that's happening in CMS, an improvement happening in CMS, into this product. So it kind of becomes like an evergreen, constantly improving version of the Umbraco back office with all this stuff on top.
Plus, we're taking our own medicine. I mean, I think it's one of the funniest things in the Uno process was how many small quirks we discovered because we actually really used our own product. So one of the goals, for instance, with 8.7 is that we will be releasing the release candidate of 8.7 when we got Uno working with the blog editor, which is a whole different level of internal testing than we've ever done before. So what that means is that when we release the release candidate of 8.7, it will be most likely and hopefully a much more stable release candidate than ever before. And then we can sort of say, this definitely works on the things that we want to use it for. And now, community, help us test it in all your edge cases, which we have no chance of discovering.
And we were talking about rolling out updates. So how does this work? So on cloud, Kristian, you do the automatic patch updates, but for me as a kind of pure SaaS user who will only be using Uno without access to a Git repository to do the kind of point releases, how are those done? What happens? Yeah,
you're right that there might be some. You would imagine that there could be some issues with this, but we own Uno and we own the version of Uno. As long as you have not enabled the custom code part, that is going to be a feature that you can enable, and then of course you have access to everything. But if you don't do that, just have the regular Uno project. We will just roll out updates to you. We own all the settings, we own all the code, and we own projects that we test on before, so we don't break anything. Now, when you have enabled the custom code, well, obviously we can't just push out our changes to Uno, because if you have changed some of the things that we have made in the past, and we just roll that out on top of your project, like the doc types that come from Uno, the widgets and whatnot, then we will break it. So that will be a manual process of saying we have a new version of Uno ready for you. It has these and these features, and then you can update as you wish on the development environment and then make it work for your site.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then so custom code, which would be for not necessarily the kind of design agencies that Uno itself is pitched at. This is for agencies, developers like us to go away and extend Uno. So you're saying that it would effectively be like a fork of Uno, and whenever an update happens, you can pull those changes into your fork.
Yeah, you could say that. Just we'll just make it available to you on the portal and say, here's an upgrade, you want it, here's the changes. Okay, I want it, and then you can make it work with your site afterwards.
I'm really impressed that you're rolling out updates for the SaaS version completely seamlessly, though. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and if we have Sofie here, we could not mention a documentation part of that, and we've been talking before we went live that it was really well documented before it was launched already, and now I was just looking in the meantime on the documentation page of Uno. There is a lot of information already there, so it's not like you need to roll it out to see what's going on there and what you can do with that. You can also read about it, but of course it's easier to roll it out and see it in action using the trial and maybe highlight that. But yeah, so Sofie, so how was the documenting part going on that? Is it right now harder to maintain it and make it up to date in the speed of launching new features and extensions for the Uno product and other products?
So we started working on the documentation for Uno for, I think, 2.5-3 months ago. So we've had a long time to develop all this documentation. And I just want to say that we launched with the 95 articles, which is pretty cool. And right now I'm working close with the rest of the Uno team here to make sure that we are in sync and up to date with the new features being released, and especially for the blog editor, because a lot of the documentation we made now is going to need to be updated for the blog editor. So that's of course also something that we're working on and are excited to do.
We said before we went live that it's fantastic to see an Umbraco product being launched with documentation, like real documentation.
Yeah, it's nice. It's been a really good process this time. We've been involved pretty early on in the process, so we've had a good chance to make some proper docs for it before launch. That's been super cool.
A different way of working and maybe lessons that will get brought into other Umbraco products too, from core to cloud and whatever.
Yeah, remember the mantra, docs or it didn't happen, right? That's kind of my motto.
we should have it. We should all have it.
Yeah, you should all have it.
The Sofie revolution in the HQ. But actually, it is funny because I mean, when you grow a company, you also have to learn to talk together, and I mean, there's so many things going on. But with Uno, also because Uno is a little bit easier to understand for everybody than a very technical release. So it was really nice how everybody inside the HQ worked together, and we're actually using the same process right now for 8.7. So we have people across all areas in Umbraco doing stand-ups twice a week to sync in with 8.7, which means that we'll also have a much better, hopefully much better promotion of 8.7, because it's a really, really good release. I mean, everybody talks about the blog editor, but I mean, it's also segmentation thanks to stuff that's been done by Perplex and their marketing suite works, but also more than 100 improvements from the community. So there's so many great stories around 8.7, and usually it's like 2 weeks before I release, it's like, oh, we have to do something. But this time, the communication and marketing people, they are all over the place right now, which is super cool. And they also like, oh, here's a change list, but we can't use it just a change list for anything. It's too confusing, which also means, of course, it's confusing for anyone else. But now, we actually know how to deal with this. And it goes with documentation.
With Uno, how quickly, I think it was the following week, you had Gabriel doing a webinar, and you were kind of pretty quick on trying to explain what it is. And I guess that only comes from having a process where everyone's involved early on. You don't have a product launching. It's a surprise to some people in HQ. Gabriel has to go away and write the content for a webinar. It takes 3 weeks. But yeah, so it's interesting to see the process shift, and hopefully will continue.
Yeah, I think the only thing that sort of went wrong really was in our excitement and pace, and also new ways of working, both in terms of this, but also just Corona. I mean, we did Uno while we were remote. We totally forgot about public communication. So I mean, to partners, to diehard community members, MVPs, nobody knew about this. A few partners knew because we've been trialing it with them, but that's really a big lesson learned. So both having closer communication with the Go partners, but also closer communication with the 60 plus MVPs we have is something that we've added, and say, hey, I mean, we just like documentation, or it doesn't happen. I mean, we need to remember to talk about this to other people, so people don't get at all or misunderstand anything.
I know we discussed on umbraCoffee in the days after Uno launch that there was kind of relatively little information. There was the docs, but the marketing pages didn't have a video or screenshots of what you could do. And then slowly over time, we got a product update and examples of it. So yeah, maybe slower off the mark than would have liked, but it's getting there. And I think this has been pretty helpful in terms of clarifying the use case, what it can do, who it's for, what it will be able to do in the future, obviously with custom code. And we had a couple of questions as well, just from the chat, that would be great to dive into very quickly. So the first was from Sotiris, who said, what's the incentive for a client to choose Uno over other similar platforms? So kind of quick site builder type things.
I mean, the same unique selling points, or USPs as marketing people call them, as with traditional Umbraco. I mean, Umbraco is a platform you can grow with. It's also a platform that works very well for more than just a single editorial team. So again, especially when we add custom code and the even better editor experience, then you really get the benefits of Umbraco. From whether it's a tiny project or something you want to grow with.
The example you gave earlier, which was you showed you built the client's website in 20 or their homepage in 20 minutes with Uno. Now, maybe for me, Uno's not targeted for me, but actually that is a fantastic use case of something that I, as a developer, can benefit from and say, look, Umbraco, we made this in 20 minutes, and you kind of have a relatively nice editor experience. So now let us build it bespoke. As a way of selling a bespoke solution too.
Yeah, but also because, I mean, as developers, we need to also realize that if nobody can sell what we can do, then there's no market for us. So one of the cool things about this is also just seeing the salespeople at our department. They're no longer asking other people to do a demo for them. They can just do a demo of Umbraco for potential clients, which then leads to partners.
So it gets people into the ecosystem rather than getting them necessarily onto your SaaS product. It's just getting more and more diverse target audiences on the Umbraco platform.
Exactly, and just like we saw with cloud, if you were a traditional Umbraco developer, you might be, I mean, it's too expensive. I have the infrastructure already. I don't need help with updating. But with cloud, we've seen a whole new range of partners that didn't use Umbraco or skipped Umbraco because the entry level was just too complex. And hopefully we'll see the same with Uno, and that's a good thing. Again, we expand the market. And I think, I can't remember who on Twitter who just, nailed it when he said, if you're afraid that Uno is going to steal your clients, you need better clients.
Yeah.
So I think I would be much more afraid if I was one of the other products than Umbraco, which, because now we can sort of accommodate more types of projects.
It's a good point. So I would liken Uno more to the WordPress-esque. I can buy a theme for $25 and install it and get up. I've got a site in a box that's up and running straight away. But I've done a few sites on that kind of platform, and it's messy and confusing, and you have to get your head around it. And WordPress themselves, I mean, their reputation, the reputation of the platform kind of hinges on that experience, yet they don't control any of it. Whereas here, you've got control over how people experience Umbraco for the first time.
Yeah, but also
and then
just to add to that, when we were talking about exploring other CMSs, there was a massive comeback to say Umbraco is awesome for the editors. We don't want to use other CMSs because they are not that friendly for editors. So if you want to use Umbraco for other purposes than you usually do, or show off the editorial experience for someone else, that's the way how it might be used right now. And I've together with the team and other members, we've tested a lot of CMSs, and we still love Umbraco the most. And it's not like the other ones are bad or different. They're just different, and Umbraco is better for editors, and they've proved that. So
and this is going to keep everyone on their toes, because what's so cool now is that if you, as an agency, experienced agency or whatever, if you make a crappy editor experience, you might be talking to a customer who's taking a trial and seen how good the editor experience can be with Umbraco. So they can challenge you and say, why is it so complex? Because you try to take over some projects, but I mean, I cry every time I see, an editor on Twitter complaining how much she hates Umbraco, and every now and then I reach out, and then sometimes they're super friendly and I get to see the implementation. I just die a little on the inside, but it's also because there's no best practice. I mean, there's not, this is how you're gonna, you should do stuff. So that's cool.
You mentioned that you want to improve the editor experience as time goes on. So I guess there's an opportunity here for some people to maybe take a trial of Uno and say, here's how we could improve the editor experience. Or maybe the documentation could be better around this feature. The docs are open source, I guess, and can be contributed to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, as always. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually, something that was funny leading up to launch was we were like, okay, who's going to discover Uno first? Because there was a little bit on GitHub, there was something in the docs, and then it turned out to be an auto tweet from something that monitors bug trackers on GitHub that revealed it like an hour before launch. It was hilarious.
We have one final question from Matt before we jump onto some other news from this week. So will other themes and starter kit options be available, such as you mentioned before, maybe this becoming a baseline of framework? Could USkinned or the Amplify theme that Matt Barlow released last week, could they be built on top of a foundation like this? Could we create a whole market for bespoke themes that get installed on top of Uno?
I think both USkinned and the Amplify theme are super impressive on their own. They have a different approach. So I think I don't think you will see sort of a marketplace of themes around Uno. You might see different example implementations of Uno and the building blocks. But again, all three themes have different approaches, and I think it would be a bit confusing. What is Uno then? Then it's three different examples of editor experience. And
I guess from the technical point of view that you said of being able to install something on Uno requires you to effectively decouple it from the Uno SaaS solution. So that becomes technically more challenging too.
But an interesting thing, and one that Anders from our suit sales department is talking to some customers about, is the idea of a powered by Umbraco cloud thing, because we have this feature already, which is called baselines, where you can roll out multiple sites and you can auto update things. And we've learned a lot from the Uno project. So USkinned could have a service like that. Matt could have it as well. And then that's kind of their approach. So I know
we discussed this, I think, last week or the week before in umbraCoffee. You've got this app marketplace. It would be fantastic if I could just click a button and spin up a baseline with one of those apps installed, ready to go.
Totally. That's the dream.
Cool.
That's the future. But it's a good segue to other news from Umbraco, because you've mentioned the the growth of the Umbraco platform behind the scenes, because of course it's still running on top of the Umbraco open source CMS version, and CMS is the CMS still. And we had the new release this week, and we are all awaiting the bigger releases, which you've already mentioned, with a lot of improvements. So it was 8.6.3 this week. And I haven't had time to play with it yet, but it's another step towards the 8.7 release, which is upcoming soon in the release candidate.
It says Q3 I heard this week, which is starting next week.
There was feature freeze yesterday.
Ooh.
Oh, was it Tuesday? It was Tuesday or yesterday.
So it's potentially sooner than we think.
No, because I mean, feature freeze. Then I mean, in the old Umbraco days, we might have put out a release candidate next week, and then it was riddled with bugs. Yes, you could install the basic starter kit, but come on, it's 6 document types and vanilla razor views. So right now it's ongoing. A lot of testing, a lot of bug fixing, but
when we say Q3, we're not going to mean very end of Q3.
I would be surprised.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, I mean, Jacob is doing product updates every 2 weeks. Jacob is our CTO, and so monitor those. I even encourage him to now tag them as product updates. Then you can keep them to product updates. That would be awesome. Now that we have a tagging feature in Umbraco. And so that's a good way to monitor progress. And then, if as always in the stuff we do with the CMS, it's all in the open. Oh yeah.
What's this?
That's the cool thing that Sebastian did.
I haven't seen that.
Oh damn it! You're revealing an intake. This was the cool stuff that was rolled out this week, which the thing I talked about, a much better overview of a changelog.
This is fantastic, because people go, why should I upgrade? No tool features. Okay, you're getting block editor, you're getting segmentation, or okay, there's a few accessibility bugs but fixed, but you can kind of focus on what you care about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Marcin. There's no way there it says now you can flag new cache and get a 250,000 nodes.
Not yet.
I'm sorry.
I need to create an issue first. That's the truth. But it's great to see that. I love it. Really, I love it. And I'm often referring to the release pages here on our Umbraco to gather what has changed, and we are checking what has changed in between of the versions. So that's amazing to see that. I've just discovered something new. I'm extremely happy about it. And we had some community releases, Callum, as well, right? There is a new package which I haven't seen before.
This was demoed by Stuart at the Edinburgh Meetup this week. It's really cool. It's a totally different approach to migrating content from V7 to V8. Stuart had a need where he wanted to only migrate a very small handful of content items, and effectively exposed a web API where you can just push the content between the two. This is his first package as well. So well done, Stuart.
Oh, cool.
Looks really interesting. And second one was Umbraco Tour Editor.
This is the fork of Dave's package.
Yep. So it's an extended version for the new releases. And as we were talking it somewhere in the past, there was a massive need of having a UI for editing tours, and this is it. So we can edit the tours and create beautiful tools for our own implementations on top of Umbraco.
Wow.
Really nice.
Imagine if we had that during the Uno.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Uno tour is really interesting and helpful. So that's another proof that the tours can be used for custom implementations as well, what might help for people to understand what's going on in the back office, not only from the Umbraco perspective, but implementation perspective. So yeah, it's really nice, helpful tool. And from other releases, there's
more Fluidity exclusive goodies. This is cool. So Matt's working on Fluidity for V8, experimenting with a few things this week with a feature called child collections, which is the idea that you can have sub items, because I guess it's fluidity tables or database stuff. But yeah, sub items and collections of sub items. So then like list view upon list view upon list view, and they'd appear in other content apps. And I saw another screencast where he had a custom content app being created as well, directly through Fluidity. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see this Fluidity and Eomatic as well for V8, because that's usually also the extension points which we were using when we wanted to attach something to the custom DB tables. So great to see that, and I'm extremely curious how the sub children are working here in these collections. But yeah, Callum, you've mentioned that there is a lot of interesting things being demoed on Meetups, and Meetups are still happening virtually, of course. So even more people from various locations can join and see those amazing demos. And there are some other Meetups happening in the next week. The umbraCoffee virtual number 2, and what's the lineup there? Look at
Callum, are you? No, no, I'm not.
I know you know. I know you know.
Block editor, vendor, and contentment as well.
Yeah.
What a killer agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, and anyone claiming that Umbraco is slowing down, I mean, look at that list. That's pretty cool.
There's also Umbraco Leeds, a virtual meetup on July 2nd, and it's focused around security this time. So another great topic and area for everyone who is doing a lot of Umbraco projects, because it's getting more and more important these days as well. So I'm extremely curious about this one. And last but not least on this list is Umbraco London meetup. And
we've taken everything virtual for the remainder of the year. So we've updated our schedule and kind of removed the socializing that was there and put extra talks in and extra discussions in and stuff. And the meetup we've got coming up at the start of July will be our first open space format, but virtually. So we're going to experiment with like some structured discussions in Zoom somehow. But welcome everyone to join.
Using the new circle layout in an upcoming version of Zoom.
There's a circle layout.
No, just kidding.
Oh,
Before we end, I don't know if we're about to end, but then I just have to say to Ismail, Mayat, and all other Liverpool fans, congratulations after 30 years. And I only do this because Kristian is on.
Look at his face.
We used to have some battles between Manchester United fans and Liverpool, and I'm accepting all of them because I'm not that interested. But yeah, congrats Liverpool fans. I saw a lot of information about it, but we are not ending yet. We have some interesting things to highlight yet. That's about MVPs. We've seen a lot about MVPs. Receiving their
getting delivered, aren't they?
Yeah, and some of the great new awarded MVPs were sharing their newly received awards, and it's great to see. And again, remind about all of the awarded MVPs. And there is an MVP.
I heard a rumor that they also received some socks.
Maybe one of those 900. Yeah, that's great. And there is an MVP summit happening soon, somewhere in time, further in time. And this is the another output of the great virtual chat between gold partners this week. That it's worth to chat and it's worth to ask people and exchange ideas. And there is a similar agenda which will be shared with the MVPs. That's ongoing. And the socks, you've mentioned socks, but there are also rocks somewhere around Umbraco HQ. And Niels, you've been sharing some of the interesting stuff from around the HQ. You still don't know who is living them?
No, but every now and then there's a new one, and it's the best. I mean, it's the most wonderful thing. It's fantastic.
I saw someone on Twitter say that they want this to be the new install screen. If there's many more, I think that would be lovely.
That's such a cool idea.
But it's such a mystery who's doing this. Could it be an HQer or is it just a friendly observer?
Nobody knows, which is crazy. To you, Sofie.
Yeah, but Niels, from your tweets, sorry.
No, nothing. I just said it's not me.
We need to investigate it further, but it's really, really cool. But Niels, from your tweets as well, we saw a lot of interesting features and extensions coming from other products, and one of them is a headless umbraCo product, which is called umbraCo Hardcore, and GraphQL. Really amazing extended support for it. And you've relieved some of the tech bits behind it, and a lot of people are impressed about the taking it out from the same instance, making it more service oriented, and also decoupled from the way how the default CMS implementation works.
I really want to hear more about that. And I know you said you have to wait till CG21, but sooner, please.
Maybe the team could come on umbraCoffee, and then don't invite me because I talk too much. But it's really impressive, and it's kind of funny. I mean, Umbraco is a monolith, which has a lot of benefits. I mean, that's why you can do new web project in Visual Studio and just install the NuGet package, hit F5, and boom, you're up and running. But it also has some downsides around scaling, and I mean, I think there's different experiments in terms of making GraphQL for Umbraco, but it's so difficult to do with scale and performance in mind. And the team has just made, I mean, that project is insane. And I don't have the skills to talk about it, so you should definitely get them on sometimes in August when it's available for everybody.
I'm in August.
I think
cool.
I've heard rumors that it's being rolled out to beta testers very, very soon.
Ooh. Exclusive.
Sorry, Kristian.
It's not on my table. You did it again.
I didn't say anything. I just said maybe. I mean, I didn't even say what year.
We all like those online promises, because I know, Niels, you've been saying something about previous products in the past, and you delivered it on time. So once it's said, it's going out. Yeah, Callum, you've gathered some of the blog posts at the end of our list. One of them was look back at the history of Umbraco as well.
This is 8 years ago. Umbraco 5 was killed 8 years ago.
Yeah. But also, Aaron Powell shared a really nice other blog post which highlighted his 10 years in the industry, let's say, and how his journey started from Umbraco. And it's a kind of another great, not highlighted on umbraco.com yet, but a community story. And he said it loud that Umbraco changed his developers' path and career, and this is the article referring to the killing process of Umbraco 5, which was 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
And I also, by the way, I don't think it was Umbraco who changed Aaron Powell's life. It was the fact that Aaron Powell was curious and did things. I mean, which is really the currency in open source, is that you don't just talk. I mean, you try, you encourage, you experiment, and that way you might get discovered by some, and it can even lead to more things. But everything starts with being a part, contributing. So it's lots of fantastic stories the last week around that.
Plus, if you mention the participation in the community, there are also great community teams in which people might be involved in and have some kind of closer look on things which are done by HQ, and have a really even bigger impact on what's going on inside of every team. And this blog post also proved the power of community teams. We were highlighting it more than once for sure, but it's extremely great to see how it improved the processes and how it's helped deliver more in the quicker time and focus points around the specific areas of the Umbraco evolution in this case.
Yeah, and also, I mean, to some who's been part of Umbraco in the early days, everything might seem a little bit more corporate, a little bit more heavy. You used to be able to just reach out to all code developers on Skype or whatever medium you used back then, and now it's been a little bit tougher. But I think we are now seeing all the hard work on boring process work really pays off now, and now the community work around Umbraco is really starting to scaling, which is, I mean, it just makes me super happy.
And two last links from our list as a community playlist helping us doing the work and Umbraco contributions in various ways. It's growing, and people can also contribute in sharing their moves and songs and feature them here. And something at the end is a really nice process of building the front end build for Umbraco or any basically web application, documented and highlighted in extreme details, using the DevOps pipelines and things like that. So it's a really great task and great blog post by Matthew Hart. And we will, of course, link all of those things which we've mentioned today in the description of this video down below. And that's all from our list.
Hit like, subscribe,
and remember, the first person to add some Mr. President to the community playlist will get some Umbraco socks. umbraCoffee Jumbo.
Yeah, Ravi was that if renewed MVPs also get the socks, so that might be another way of getting the socks then. Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing all of the details from straight from the HQ, and it's as well as always great to see some other bits flying over and promises being said loud. Do you want to add anything else to that from your side, Kristian, Sofie, maybe?
Yeah, feel free to reach out about Uno. We have a public issue track as well. We'll keep an eye on that. Use the usual channels. We'd love the feedback. Love it. We had more Uno projects served in the first 24 hours than we did of V8. So that was a high for us. And
how much deep did
we
you
know
get?
that there's some interest, and we know that people are trying it. So just bring it back to us. We want to know what you think.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's all. Of course, reach out with any questions straight to the HQ as well, and trial products and share your experiences and share issues if you will spot any to improve everything around the Umbraco. And as usual, we will see each other on the next Friday, highlighting what will happen in the meantime then. So thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of the day and the weekend ahead.
You too.
Yeah,